We're all set. Everybody's here, right?
Oh, yep. I'm like, I don't see.
Yep.
Just one of me.
Our student representatives here. So we'll go right into A and Mr. Bullard.
All right, so we'll do communication items first, and so it looks like Mary, you're up.
Okay. No, I can go.
There you go.
We did great stuff.
Sure.
Okay, great, thank you. The tricky part with masks and the gaiters, I think, is that our eyelashes get in the way, so you find yourself going like this a little bit, right? Maybe? Hi, everybody. I'm glad you're here. Okay. So just a big shout out to our custodial staff for their efforts this summer. Between the cleaning, the painting, the attention to detail, and the willingness to step up and help on a whim, it's just been super impressed and amazed. Our elementary school looks fantastic. It's just been almost transformational. So thumbs up for them, and then district-wide as well. We were just visiting it. If you had seen, well, you did see the building just not too long ago, and things are really falling into place. That's awesome. Also, kudos to our entire staff. We got a go-get-em kind of attitude. We're ready to bring our students back, and the extra time for meet and greet conferences, both during open house last week and then today, has been really appreciated. A great way to spend that one-on-one time with families and teachers and kids and make that connection even if we had the masks and protective gear on. We were also able to assess our kiddos, especially those that are going to be our remote learners. And the teachers and Miss Megan Matt reached out to all of our remote learning families and made sure that they came in to visit with us during this time so that we could have a conversation about what the year might look like for their children. Enrollment, we're at 391. We're down. We were at anywhere between 403 and 407 when we moved forward this year. 8 of our families moved. 3 of our kiddos were open enrolled or returned to their home district. 10 picked an online learning academy. 1 didn't give us a reason. And we have 17 K through 5 students at the elementary school who are remote learning with us. And that's in all the grade levels except 4th grade has all of their students in person at this time. Facility updates, our communications lab, we got the grant, we're super excited, we ordered the tables, they're delayed. They won't be here until the end of September, so we're a little bit bummed with that. But if we look on the positive side, it really gives our staff that opportunity to think carefully about how we use the space, come up with new and ingenious ideas, and then focus on those relationships the first few weeks of school. Because of the district office moving over here a little bit early, we were able to utilize that space. We've got our co-mental health providers from Doctors Medical Group working in there, and our West Central Ed District supervisor is there. One of our lounges moved down there so that the current lounge, the tinier lounge on the east side, is now used for students for small groups because we know that we can't have that many kiddos in some of our classrooms. Our quiet smile rooms, which are places where kids go when they need to take that deep breath and de-escalate, either quietly or if they need some large motor activities, those got moved from the stage where they were last spring to their own space right now. So I just feel like those are some really good changes happening for our kiddos, and of course for our staff to just have that designated place to go and to be able to create it and make it what they need it to be. So those are the changes that have happened here. Do you have any questions for me?
Before I forget, and I'll probably just deflect this to Matt when he has a chance to talk about COVID, but when we talk about the numbers, I'm just curious as to, do we have a sense for how much the COVID has affected the enrollment?
Yeah, we'll talk about that
Okay.
at
I just wanted
the agenda item, and I have a data sheet for everybody too. So.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you ask that question, that we look at the whys behind the kiddos that we're learning, because we've also gained many students as well. So, but I want to keep them here, so
Right.
it's nice to know the why. Okay.
Okay,
Go
thank you.
Bulldogs. David, I think you're next.
Well, good evening, everyone. Just want to echo what Mary said about our custodial staff. In this building, we had so many changes, and there were many times where I would go up to Donnie and say, can we take this wall out, or can we do this? And they just got it done. And so when I left on Friday, the building did not look like it looks today. So they did a great job of getting everything ready and cleaned up, and so just really appreciate that. I think we're ready for tomorrow. We're going to have A through L tomorrow, and then the rest of the alphabet on Thursday. And so we feel like having only half the students in the building will give us an opportunity to make sure that the things that we have in place are working, and we can make adjustments for Thursday and Monday. And then starting Monday, students will have the option of being here 4 days. And so what we've done is we've set up we have a list of overflow rooms, so that if we meet the capacity on a certain day, then the students who were not required to be there on that particular day will go into an overflow room for that hour, and they'll have their class online, but in with the class, and we're working on proximity of those rooms so that a teacher or a para can check in on those students. And then we've also, we have a spreadsheet of all the open spaces that we have in the building that can house more than 25 students easily. And so we have that list for each hour, and teachers are signing up for those areas now, and we'll have a pretty good idea, and we don't have to worry about that this week, so we'll have all of that set for Monday. We have a good number of students who are going to be here the 4 days a week, and we don't have a lot of families who are doing the remote learning. Probably like 17 or 18 that are completely remote. I don't believe we have any 6th grade students who are remote learning completely, and so we are excited to have them in our building. So we had 4 open houses. We had for 6th grade, 7th, 8th, and kind of a modified open house for 9th graders so that they could come in and pick up their Chromebooks. And turnout was great. We had a lot of staff that hung around, and we kind of made the middle school lobby a welcome center, and we had staff just kind of mingling with parents and trying to give a sense of normalcy to that. So we had a really good turnout for that. 6th grade. So they weren't able to be brought over in the spring for orientation and things like that, so they missed out on all of that. Tomorrow and Thursday, so we'll do it 2 times. 6th grade will spend the entire morning they won't have any classes. So we have an agenda lined up with technology, myself, Max, and in about an hour or so of some mental health activities, teamwork activities, and then we'll be taking an in-depth tour of the building, and then we'll be outside doing activities until lunch, and then they'll go to lunch, and then they'll have their classes in the afternoon. So we wanted to give them an opportunity to feel like they've gotten some type of an orientation. We have each 6th grader will get a name tag with their first name on it, and we are going to call it Hey Day. And so staff, when they see a 6th grade student with the name tag on their first name, then we'll be welcoming that student by saying their first name, like Hey Joe. And so we're calling it Hey Day, so we can kind of make them feel welcome. I think Mr. Bullard will talk about the construction, and it was kind of neat to see the form of the building come up today. And parking lot is finished, and they'll have that sidewalk. I think they've kind of got that all set up already. So, any questions for me?
I think you kind of covered it, but like all the parents that I talked to picked the 4 days. Would you say like the majority of parents picked the in-school 4 days?
Yeah, a decent amount. Yeah. And then we have a lot of our juniors and seniors who are taking classes either PSEO or online or in another district or at Cold Spring Granite. So, and then we also had separated the 6th grade lunch too. So there's three 3 lunch periods now, and I think we're ready.
With the overflow classroom, are you running into any challenges with staffing? Like, or you have enough staff to cover extra spaces?
Yep, so we have staff that if they don't have a class at that hour, then they're on the list for an overflow class for kids. Staff has been wonderful, very flexible and willing to go the extra mile, and you know, we'll all be in the hallways and at the entrances tomorrow greeting kids as they come in, and like I told staff, all my staff this morning is we set the tone right away tomorrow morning on how we're going to get started. And these kids haven't been in school since the middle of March, and they're excited and they're nervous, and you know, it's our job to create that environment right off the bat. So we're looking forward to that.
Anybody else? Thank you. Next.
Well, some updates for fall activities. On Monday, junior high baseball and softball will be starting next week. Right now we have 8 dates on the schedule. Some of those dates are double headers, and so we're anticipating them to get somewhat of a normal season. If you've paid attention to what's happened with the State High School League, even the activities that are going on right now, they've reduced the number of competitions. So for us, we have cross country, and they've reduced the number of maximum allowed competitions. And so I was looking back, when I started working here, we played 10 junior high baseball and softball games. We've been able to increase that. We've cut down on our travel with some of our opponents and added some games and stuff. Normally I schedule almost every day except for Wednesdays for games, three of them a week, most weeks, and sometimes 4. However, a lot of them get rained out in the spring anyways, so you never know with weather. We're not anticipating doing anything with our junior high baseball and softball on Fridays because of the schedule with the hybrid, with them not being in person on Fridays and those students not necessarily having their driver's license or whatever, being able to get here. We would potentially use those days as makeup days for games, so we can make sure that we get as much opportunity for them as we can. And then I think I covered this last time we spoke, but we're using the fields here instead of the transportation back over to the elementary school. So super excited, because that will be good for those kids to be able to get back to some kind of normalcy. A lot of those student athletes have been playing baseball and softball throughout the summer anyways, some of them even on our fields here. We have the fall practice schedules going on and working on getting those communicated and out to students and their families. So when we have the fall practice seasons for the sports that the high school league has allowed us to, in September 14th it would be football and volleyball, and then October, I should have wrote it down, but it's the first Monday in October. I don't know if it's the 5th or what the date is it the 5th? Then track, baseball, softball, and golf will have a 3-week window to do their practice seasons. Those are Minnesota State High School League sanctioned seasons, so athletes will need to have their eligibility forms and their physicals into the school in order to be eligible to participate in that. We are allowing or have it opened up for them to register, because it's something that they would do or pay their fee while they turn those forms in at the same time. If we come into a situation where any of those seasons are canceled without competition, we're going to refund those fees for those families. Something new that the State High School League started last week, Friday, I got to do for the first time is do COVID issue reporting. And so it's on the back end dashboard for administrators of school. And essentially you select all the sports that you're participating in during the time. So for us, it's boys and girls cross country. I have to designate if we've had any COVID issues, and what they call a COVID issue would be as if somebody tests positive. That's one of the questions. Another one would be as if somebody misses practice because of quarantine or because of COVID. And so I probably didn't cover this, but our coaches take an attendance at all of the practices, and they need to do that. That's part of the guidelines that the State High School League has put out through the Department of Health. And so the reason that they need that is because if somebody else would have tested positive, they want to be able to look back and see who they might have been in contact with. But anyways, we have to report that every 2 weeks, and we have had zero practices or anything canceled because of it, but we have to report if we've had any confirmed cases, if we've had any people miss practices, and or if we've had any practices canceled and meets. And so our students participated last Friday in the first meet at Maple Lake, and then this week Thursday they'll participate in Holdingford. State High School League right now is a return to task force committee that is working on determining what the postseason plans are going to be. So for us would be for cross country. When they made the decision to reduce sports for the fall, it was just to get them started. They had no idea what they're going to do for postseason. So right now there's no plan for any postseason. Hopefully we'll find that out very soon. Obviously that's the first thing that they need to decide. Next on the agenda then would be the winter season plans and what the time frame would be for the rescheduling of the sports that they canceled this fall. We've been told that would be done in October, so that's kind of what's going on right now. We had our first conference meeting this past Wednesday, and some of the issues that we're discussing are the exact things that I talked about, but normally we'd be off and running in fall seasons. We're trying to plan and prepare about a year in advance, so right now we'd be working on next fall scheduling. We're trying to do that at the same time we're scheduling some sports for spring that we don't even have parameters for. So like, it's a little bit different time. It was kind of an odd meeting because we're all over the place. A lot of things that you have to discuss, but you can't act on, but you need to be ready to act as soon as you have the ability to. So does anybody have any questions for me?
I'm kind of lost with everything that's happened, but have we made the switch now? Is ACGC in our conference? Or
Yes, so that's the other thing. Royalton came in last year, and Piers went out, and then ACGC is now into our conference now, and Howard Lake is out.
I didn't know if that was this year or next year.
Yes, that is this year.
Okay.
Brad Skoglin had mentioned to me the other day, he goes, yeah, by the time we finally play baseball, we're going to have 2 new teams in our conference that we didn't even play because last spring those sports were canceled and they never even competed against, and baseball, softball, track and field did not, and golf didn't go against Royalton at all, and so now ACGC will be banned.
Okay.
So, yep.
Any questions?
All right.
Thank you, sir. Well, hello there.
Hello. All right, welcome. Okay, well, we got safely through summer programming, which was good. So we had over 80-some students in pause, and we did not have any active cases or any issues there, which was good. And also through our other programs. Our fall programming is online. It's a bit limited, of course, due to our COVID restrictions, but we're trying to continue to offer programming for our people. Kind of a pause update. We already have 92 students registered for the school year pause, and that's the highest we've ever had at this time of the year. Usually we continue to get more throughout the year. So preschool update. All of our preschool 3-year-olds are full except one spot on the Friday only. And we have 2 p.m. preschool spots available for our 4-year-olds. So that's a full fitness center report. We've been back open since the middle of June, but our attendance and our usage is quite down. It's just a lot of people summer's fairly slow, but a lot of our older members, I just don't think feel comfortable yet coming back. So. Live stream report, we've done 19 Talk of Paynesville episodes so far. We have number 20s next Monday. We're moving our show to 7 p.m. on Mondays to try to get more interaction with our viewers and more live viewing. We're planning in the planning stages of a live city council and mayor forum or debate. And we're investing heavily right now in new live stream equipment and infrastructure, so once the sports are back, we should be able to really take our game up to a next level. We did actually live stream with our new PTZ camera summer robotics camp, which was pretty neat to see, and we had good watching on that. And we've done, as you guys have probably watched, the 2 district live town hall meetings too with, boy, Matt, would we have like 150 live at one time on that last one, which is that's a big number for an event like that. So. Any questions for me?
You mentioned you're going to have the city council debate.
Mhm.
Is there a chance we could get the city council live streamed? City council meetings?
That would be a question for the city. They live stream them on their channel 8. I don't know why they don't do it just onto their YouTube channel. I don't know if they have the technology, but that's out of our realm as Bulldog live stream. So
Okay.
yeah, you could ask the city hall, though. They do have an actual media specialist that's her job. So that'd be a
Okay.
good question. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Donnie. I'll give you a little update again on what's going on. Talked to the boiler guys today, and I said, you know, it's gonna freeze one of these days, you should get them going. And yeah, we'll have them going by Friday. They're full of it, maybe by the end of the month, they said, so. We usually start them around October 15th, so we're hoping they get close by then. They did hook up steam lines today at the elementary, and they're working on putting chimney pipe over. Here, that boiler room looks like it's just blowing up inside. They got so much stuff in there. They're putting the chimney in right now there, and they put the main header back up. After they cut the ceiling out, the header they had to cut out, and the roof is done, but other than that, I think they're on a roll yet. They're working constantly in the boiler rooms anyway. As you notice, we all got new ceiling tile in most of the rooms. The cafeteria, choir room, on down the line. They're about 99% done with that. Building is fully sprinklered up to this point now. The restrooms in the cafeteria won't be done because they are waiting for base coat. So during lunch hour, I guess we're gonna have them go down to the middle school down by our custodial room and use them bathrooms until they get the parts in. We moved the metal shop in, and probably a quarter of the wood shop is sitting in the metal shop. And our garage is still full, so they have one more floor, I think it is the wood shop floor, to coat yet, and then we can start moving more in. They got all the glass garage doors in. They put the last one in today until they open it up to the auto shop. Then I think there's one more glass door going in. We just run into a little glitch last week. We put all new sinks in the middle school bathrooms and locker rooms, and they'd work and they wouldn't work. So we had Voss out last week, and of course all the sensors, stick your hand under and they work. Next time they don't. So it's a warranty deal, and they'll replace them, but when they get the parts in. So up until then, we got to open the bottoms every time, probably once or twice a day, and unhook all the wires, hook them back up, and they work again. So it's just going to be a pain in the neck for a little bit. But other than that, everything seems to be going good. We stuffed a lot of stuff from the hallways in different rooms today just to clean it up. But like the custodians did a good job. I don't know if you have any questions. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, should we go on?
Yep, COVID-19, you're on.
Okay, so let's first, I just want to talk about this MDH decision tree. So this is new, and it came out on August 31st. It's a little bit slightly frustrating because the intent of this decision tree was to have this in the calendars that are going to be mailed out. Those district calendars should be hitting the mail, I believe, this week. So we needed to use the MDH decision tree that had been published prior to 8/31 to put into our calendars. Needless to say, there are significant changes. So we will figure out how exactly we're going to get this out to all families, but this will be coming out for everybody. Couple of things on here, and I think what MDH is trying to do is they're trying to balance the idea of if you're not feeling well, it doesn't always mean you have COVID. Versus also trying to make sure people understand what the symptoms of COVID are. So if you do have a collection of those symptoms, you can go get tested and they can try to help figure out how to manage the spread of that. Obviously, that is very much a tightrope to walk. How do you educate people about the symptoms, but yet then not go overboard where now every time somebody doesn't feel well, it's a COVID case. So they've kind of changed this up, and essentially they have taken these symptoms and they've really broken it into, for people that have one of the less common symptoms or one of the more common symptoms combined with two of the less common symptoms. I know it doesn't sound quite as clean as we wish it would be, but trust me, I think it's a lot better than where they were at. So obviously now this is the decision-making tree that we are going to be required to follow. I think when you talk about from the perspective of an individual has symptoms or they're staying home because they're not feeling well, they're going to go in and get tested, all of that makes a lot of sense to people, and it makes sense that they probably shouldn't be around other people, and let's try and, if we don't feel well, let's try to just kind of self-isolate ourselves so we don't get other people that don't feel well, regardless if it's COVID or whatever it might be. The bottom line is the one that's creating maybe a little bit more anxiety. So the other thing that MDH has really gone and spent a lot of time trying to articulate is, what do we do for an individual who has been exposed or potentially exposed to somebody with COVID-19? And this bottom line, this is the one that is really going to be, I think, the most difficult from a school perspective, I would say from a business owner's perspective, from a community perspective. This is really tricky. So right now, MDH defines close contact as if you are within 6 feet of somebody for more than 15 minutes. That's what they're using as the threshold to establish close contact. Now, if you're like me, you don't necessarily carry a stopwatch on you. And every time you go to interact with somebody, you don't document, okay, I was only with them for 12 minutes, or I was with them for 12. So inherently, there's a little bit of a gray area here. I think the 6 feet is a little easier to wrap your head around if you were close to somebody or not. But what's important here is if we have staff or students that are exposed to a potential COVID-19 case, they are required to stay home from all activities for 14 days. If they end up testing positive, they are also required then to stay home for 10 days, plus they have to monitor when their symptoms end, and they have to monitor when they are no longer have a fever for 24 hours without fever-reducing medication before they can return. So this is the part that to me is going to get really, really difficult. I was on a phone call with Department of Health with several other superintendents, and very quickly as we were going through this, the conversation went to, okay, so if I play this out in my household, I potentially get exposed to somebody, I'm out 14 days, on day 12 I don't feel well, so I go to get tested, it's positive, I'm out 10 days, then it depends on when my fever is done, now I'm out potentially till that's done, and MDH was very quick to say yes. You are interpreting it 100% correctly, and as a school, you need to start preparing for students and staff that could miss 24 consecutive calendar days. So that is the difficulty in this. The other thing that I think is going to be really challenging is the 14-day quarantine also applies if you go get a COVID-19 test and it is negative. You still are required to complete that 14-day quarantine process, even though you have a negative test. So it's going to be tricky from a staffing side, and as this happens, if there are positive tests and somebody is within close contact, obviously that could have very quick ramifications for us from a staffing perspective. If all of a sudden a teacher, a paraprofessional, or a bus driver, or you name it, now needs to be gone for 14 calendar days. It also, I think, is going to present some challenges from a family perspective and from the home perspective when you start looking at this. The good news in all of this is, at least my interactions with the Department of Health, they have been extremely helpful. They've been very proactive and positive, and they are working as diligently as they can to try to assist school districts with whatever those needs and questions are.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So these are guidelines, they're not necessarily they can be enforced, correct? So like, let's say in a classroom, you're exposed more than 15 minutes, someone in that classroom is tested positive. How does that, like, does a school say that group can't come back to school? Or how does that part work?
Yeah, I believe public health will tell us that.
They'll tell us,
Yeah.
so it's not.
So the Department of Health has been very clear with school districts that now that school is returning to session, they have dedicated contract tracers that are going to be just working school cases.
Okay, so it won't be up to, the school's not gonna have to be in that
What
situation.
we really need to
Okay.
have a good grasp on is the idea that, in my mind right now, the switch is when I get a call from an employee that says, my spouse tested positive for COVID-19. The first question I ask, well, have you been within 6 feet of your spouse for 15 minutes in the last 2 days? Generally, the answer to that is yes. And so then I tell them, you need to pack your stuff up and you need to go home. We will contact the Department of Health, and the Department of Health will be contacting you, and we'll figure out what it looks like. But just know, you're now considered a close contact, and you're going to be quarantining for 14 days, regardless if they have any symptoms or not. But generally, yes, it's going to be Department of Health and their contact tracing people that are going to be making those calls and determining where things are at.
But we have most of the classrooms set up for 6-foot distance, correct?
Correct.
So sitting in the classroom may not be as much of an issue as to where that person came in contact with somebody for that 15 minutes, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So when somebody has this, for them to come back, are you going to have doctor's letters, or how are you going to do this? Is going to be just...
Nope, so it's all going to be set up on a calendar timeline. It is not, I mean, the public health and you know, we did have a conference call with folks from CentraCare too. And I mean, the system just is not set up to have these mass numbers of people that have contracted COVID-19 needing to go back and get in the system to basically get a document so you can return to work. So they've been very clear that no, they are not required to have a doctor's note to return. It's just Department of Health will set up the calendar and timeline in which they would be the earliest point at which they could return.
So I've talked to some people that have had this.
Yep.
One of the impressive parts to me was they said that one of their first contacts is coming from Department of Health that's giving them personal guidance through the issue, which is plenty helpful.
As I asked, what does the sub situation look like? You know, let's say a certain percentage of teachers are out. Do we have, do we have a range or how are we?
You've got 4 subs in the room now.
Okay, and that's what I was wondering.
I fully anticipate I will be in classrooms in the near future. I think both Mary and David are well aware that they're going to be in classroom. I'm pretty sure Max already knows he's going to be in classrooms. So we got 4 more than we had yesterday.
Is there a need, like, because if you need a bachelor's degree, like, is there a need within the community that
Absolutely.
we
there's
would
a-
say,
there's a
like,
need.
you know what, people could take, I don't know, I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, worst case scenario, how could people step forward and say, you know what, I would be available?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we would be open to that if you enjoy working with kids.
Right, yes. I don't think they would say yes if they did.
Well, I just want to be clear. I mean,
Right, right.
we also,
Right.
yeah.
You would qualify people, I'm saying they go through the process, but if there's a need,
Absolutely.
potentially there would be people who would be interested in saying, you know what,
Yes.
I'd work with my employer, and if there's that need, I would.
And what I would also say is, up to this point, our sub lists that we had in the past, they are all, for the most part, ready
Okay, so-
to go. So I mean, you know, we're not down any subs because
Okay.
of this right now. But you know, who knows
Right.
where things are 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious what that looked
Yeah.
like, your duck there.
Other questions regarding this decision tree? I wouldn't be surprised if you guys are going to get feedback about this. You know, I've talked to multiple people, and I think the hardest thing for them to understand is, but I have a negative test. You're telling me, as my boss, you're telling me I can't come back to work. Or you're telling me I can't send my kid to school. We have a negative test. According to this decision tree, that is what I'm telling you. And unfortunately, I don't see how we as a district can choose to go and modify this tree. I think, I'm not gonna recommend it. So it is kind of as it's written. There's really not a lot of local decision-making in how this is gonna be approached or implemented.
Well, the people that I ran across that had it, 2 people, and the one had negative tests all the way through, and went out 7 days. Guess what? All of a sudden, some symptoms showed up. So it extended, the other person he was with extended theirs, but there again, he said the Department of Health was kind of walking them through it. The issue is gonna be the Department of Health can't have enough people to make all this work. So hopefully it'll offset, but
And I should
anybody
say,
that's talking to anybody, that's how it works.
yeah, so the other thing is the Department of Health has broadened their footprint in K-12 because they are partnering with the regional service cooperatives. So we're a member of Region 6, which is through the Resource Train and Solution. So we have a local contact now that is with Resource Train and Solution that has been trained by the Department of Health as well. So they are trying to, I think, build that capacity, knowing that yeah, come the Tuesday after Labor Day, this might get a little demanding. So, okay. Any other questions regarding the tree? Okay, so then let's go on to these COVID-19 relief funds. So I just provided the information for each of the different funds. I can give you just a quick summary here if I get the right document pulled up. Give me 1 second. So the ESSER funds, those are from the original stimulus package. For Paynesville area schools, that's $86,336. The GEAR funds, that is also from the original stimulus package. So for PAS, that's $9,190. The coronavirus relief funds, that is a state pool of money that was allocated after, I forget if they've had 2 special sessions now or 3. I think it was after the second one is when the state allocated these. That's $232,000. And then the county money that is available is $99,640. Now, mind you, that is just the Stearns County money. That's where the vast majority of our dollars will come from because of the number of kids we have in Stearns County. Candy Ojai is also working on a plan to flow some of their CARES dollars through to schools. They haven't released what that'll look like as far as for Paynesville. I'll just add it into the county dollars as we go. Now, each of these have a little bit of a different wrinkle to them. The county dollars, those are really dedicated towards the PPE expenses. They're certainly open to any technology expenses that we would need in order to do some sort of remote learning, distance learning. That's certainly open for them. The gear money is the most flexible. It really is any expenses that we had when we had to make that switch to distance learning in March. Any expenses that we incurred that weren't budgeted because of that, it's the most flexible dollar. It's also the smallest pool of money, but it is the most flexible. The ESSER funds, those again are really dedicated towards technology and infrastructure that was needed in order to assist with distance learning. In fact, that one, the ESSER dollars almost go to the point to exclude items that would be like PPE expenses, whether it be hand sanitizer, cleaning tools for buildings. All of those things are excluded out of ESSER. It's really geared just for the technology piece. The coronavirus relief funds, the $232,000, there's a lot of flexibility with that. And so it could be technology, it could be PPE related, it could be additional personnel that the district may need to hire. There's all sorts of flexibility with those. So where we're at with this is we are right now working on a plan for all of these funds as a whole. At the September 22nd board meeting, I will have a draft of how I would propose going about using these different funding mechanisms. It's going to be a mix. You're going to see things in there that are very much, the gallon jug of hand sanitizer that's sitting by the door. The first order that we had, so every room in the district had that, was just about $3,000. And so we're going to have another order of that, I'm sure, and that's going to be an ongoing expense for the near future. So it's going to be a mix of things, but also I think there's also opportunity when we start looking at some of these things. We can start to do some things that I think are pretty creative and maybe outside the box when you start talking about what remote learning could look like. I don't know, did anybody have a chance to look at all about Matt's production of the robotics competition that was the summer robotic competition? The camera technology that he used, that event went on at the elementary school. He was filming that sitting in his office at the high school. And so there's camera technology that we could go and implement that can really promote remote learning and really give our classrooms in our district the ability to do some really creative things if we are willing to spend the time in coming up with a game plan in order to address those. So that's coming at the next board meeting, and I can guarantee you're going to probably look at some of the stuff and you might scratch your head and say, well, hold on, let's talk about this one, and that's fine, we should talk about it. But just know that we're gonna probably put some things on there that I think I don't know that they'll be on a lot of applications. Give you a sense, the face covering stickers that are on the doors of all of our buildings, we did those all in our innovation center. Anita Flanders did all of those stickers. She had said, I think she had maybe $400 worth of product or something. I know somebody had mentioned that to me. it was something like $400 worth of product or something to make the signs. If we would have gone to one of the vendors that was soliciting to make those signs for us, it would have been $3,000 to $4,000 for that type of a purchase. So there's going to be things like that, so we have that capability to be able to respond to something like that. And oh, by the way, our students are also going to benefit now from having equipment like that available and at their disposal as well. So just know that that plan's coming, and we'll figure out exactly where that ends up in September. Questions on any of those? I did read today that it does look like potentially there is a possibility for an additional federal stimulus package. The one snippet that I saw today indicated that schools would potentially be something that they would be packaging something at the federal thing. So potentially maybe there would be something else coming that we don't know about yet, but that's a possibility as well.
Okay,
Any questions?
and we're on C, enrollment projections.
Let's move on. All right, so I did email this out to everybody this afternoon. It is also in the drive folder if you want to look at it right there. So my numbers are a little different than Mary's numbers. And the reason why that my numbers are different is I'm also counting any ECSE student. I'm also counting those students are, kindergarten students, and so when Mary's talking about a K-5 enrollment, those students aren't necessarily counted in that, so that's where the discrepancy is here. The other thing that I can tell you about these numbers is we're still processing some paperwork. These numbers came out this afternoon, but when they got to me, there was also just a note that said these numbers will change by morning because this building, for instance, was still putting some additional enrollments into the system, and so they will change. And that's the only other thing I would say is these will be fluid, I would think, here for the next couple of weeks. Probably by the 3rd or 4th week of September, I think we'll probably have a better idea of where we're sitting. So right now today, K-12, including ECSE enrollment, is at 917 students. That's 402 at the elementary school and 515 at the secondary building. Students that have gone elsewhere. Between March of last spring and now, we have 25 elementary students that have withdrawn from Paynesville. We have 23 secondary students. So a total of 48 students have withdrawn. Mary touched base a little bit about this, but when you start asking that question, where did students go? 26 of the 48 have simply moved to another district, or they were living in another district and they have chosen to enroll at that district rather than enrolling here. We have 13 students that are choosing homeschool and or enrolling with an online provider. Rick, when you asked your question, do we know or can we measure the impact of COVID-19? There's nothing that we have that can say exactly, precisely, this is a withdrawal from Paynesville because of COVID-19. We don't have that granular data. I think when you're looking at 13 students choosing to homeschool or enroll with an online provider, I believe a lot of that is the current situation of what's required in school.
So I'm just, the thing that would probably tell us something would be, how does this compare to last year? And are these 13 homeschool kids the ones that are continuing to homeschool that have already been?
No, so these 48 are the 48 that are in lines 7 and 8 on the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Those 48 are the same 48 I'm talking about right now.
Okay.
So the 48 kids that aren't enrolled here today, that were enrolled.
Okay.
They are, 26 of them have moved out of our district and are enrolling in another district. 13 of them have chosen to not enroll here, but are enrolling in homeschooling
Those are new,
or
okay.
enrolling with an online provider. And then 9 of them are open enrolling, they're withdrawing from Paynesville and open enrolling to another school district.
So I guess the question would still be, is this normal or is this above normal? I would assume it's probably above normal, but I just,
I would say it's a little elevated, yes.
okay.
Yes. And remember, last year, we were on the flip side of this. Rather than having a negative 23 net impact on enrollment, we were at about a plus 45 is where we were, a plus 43. So, and then we have to factor in, those other students are going elsewhere, then what are we bringing in for new students? 10 new students at the elementary school, and we have 15 new students at the secondary school. I know that 15 number is going to increase because they still had some enrollment paperwork that they were putting in the system prior to or after they sent these numbers. So we do have 25 new students, and so that's where you take your 48 that left, subtract your 25 new. That's how I'm arriving at that net number of 23.
The other thing to look at too would be the long term, like the last 5 years, how has that affected? I mean, so yeah, it might be a dip this year, but we had a jump last year, so it's a, to me, it's a long-term kind of view that you have to take on this too.
And I think the other thing, and I put the comment at the bottom here, but this enrollment is fluid. I mean, there is nothing to say that necessarily, I mean, this is a snapshot of where we are on September 8th. And things are going to change, circumstances are going to change, things can definitely move. So just, let's all keep it in perspective that this is a snapshot as we sit here today. Now, do I wish there are things that we could do that would, you know, turn these numbers around or get those 13 that are choosing to homeschool or enroll with an online provider back? Absolutely. I would absolutely love that. But I think some of what's going into that decision is because we don't have that ability. And that is what people see as the option then. So, you know, we'll see where it goes. The important dates for funding, remember, are October 1, when we submit our student, our MARS data to the state, and then October 15th. Those are the two biggies. That's when all of our categorical funding and stuff, typically, when you look those up, they either are based off an October 1 count or an October 15 head count.
So October 1 and October 15th head count this year will tell us what our funding is for the balance of the year?
It'll tell us what our categorical funding is. So for instance, like when I talk about categorical funding, I'm talking like compensatory funds. So compensatory funds are dollars that we need to be able to turn around and allocate on our free and reduced meal population. And those numbers, compensatory is figured off on a formula. And so the formula is determined by every school district's enrollment data based on October 1. So it's things like that. It's compensatory funding. It's the numbers that get turned around to send to the federal government for title funding. It's the numbers that get sent to the state of Minnesota for small school funding. It's the transportation sparsity funding. It's all of those categorical funds that you meet some criteria based in statute, and that triggers a dollar amount per pupil based on your enrollment. Everything in statute's either enrollment on October 1 or October 15. We still get a large chunk of our aid. It's butts in seats. So as a student is enrolled, if they're enrolled every single school day with Paynesville area schools, we get all of their foundation aid. All the base aid that you read about, it's $6,700 or something in that neighborhood. All of that is based on where the kid actually goes to school. If they spend half the year with us and the other half in Eden Valley, then the two districts split that foundation. But all of the categories, I think there's 28 total. We don't qualify for all of them, but all of those, they're either based on October 1 or October 15.
So if we roughly use a $6,700, $7,000 rounded off, times the amount of student change, that's what could be the gain or stress for the district.
I think personally, I would like to do this conservatively, but I think if you want to look at it, use $10,000.
With all the other,
When
okay,
you
I
talk
wonder what that
when you
number
talk
was.
about local levy aid, you talk about wrapping all of that together to get a per pupil dollar amount, I would say multiply it by $10,000, 23 times 10,000, $230,000 is what we're talking about tonight.
Well, for Rick and Cheryl, we were here at a time when we got, every meeting we got this enrollment. And we had this flow that just went on, just like you're talking about, that this is gonna move around. I think the serious ones become the second two, right in the middle. The 13 and the 9, where they go to another district. It seems like that enrollment, we had people that all of a sudden in the middle of the year moved somewhere. Next thing, somebody moved back, and so that was always kind of a wash. But when you start putting the numbers to it, we have to be aware that this makes a lot of difference in a budget.
Right.
23 times 10 grand pretty much figures out to be $230,000.
Yes. Yeah, and I think the thing that I would just caution everybody to, we're not to the point where we can calculate, exactly with any accuracy a deficit or something like that. It's way too early in the game. And there is going to be movement in this. But at the same time, I think we also are well positioned because we do have a healthy fund balance that promotes good fiscal health. And this is part of the reason why your auditor wants you to have that healthy fund balance. So that when there is a global pandemic and there is enrollment implications because of it, you don't have to worry where the next payroll is going to come from. And thankfully, we're in a position where we're okay. Is this going to sort itself out, and are we going to have to do some corrections in the future? We might, but right now, sitting here today in September, I think it's just too early to immediately jump to that's what we want to do now. It's just simply too early for that.
This is going to be fluid number. The COVID issue in Candiota County, there's something going on over there. It's like, oh my goodness, I don't know. Everybody's going to have to just stay on top of it. You have to do the best you can. There's nothing else you can do about it. Numbers are the numbers.
Great.
I would also suggest, I don't know how you feel about this, Matt, but if we look at ourselves as a business, we've lost 22 customers. Is there a way we could reach out to them with a letter just saying, we're sorry that you've chosen, we just want you to know that we hope things go well, and if at any time things change, you are certainly welcome to come back again. Is there some way of trying to just keep a connection there?
Yeah, I mean,
That's a really good idea.
There's nothing that says we can't. I mean, we certainly can.
I mean, if I start shopping, if I stop shopping at a store and they never contact me, I think, well, then they don't care if I'm there or not.
Yeah.
But if they reach out to me afterwards, then, well, there's a connection there, I might go back again at something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the other question too is, do you send that letter to the family that moved to Wyoming? Or is that one that you don't? I mean, that's the other question. Do you send it to those that have chosen to open enroll or homeschool or go to online school? Or do you send it to those that have moved out of state as well? I don't know where you draw that line.
Well, I'm looking at more of those who are still in the district but aren't here. To be perfectly honest, a few weeks down the line, they may start looking back at the school again.
Right.
It may look good right now, but.
Yep.
So is there, and I know, these are fluid, but October 1 to me is not that far away. Do you already, I'm assuming you already have kind of plans, kind of what those levers are that would need to be pulled? Like if there is, there's a certain point where it's is there a number at, negative 20 students, we're fine, negative 30, so you kind of have, I'm assuming you kind of know, if we do have to make cuts, where we would need to go first based off of whatever scenario, so I guess scenario planning, and I know that's.
Yeah, and I would say that for us to weather this 23 student issue, we are positioned to be able to do that.
Okay.
I am not pushing the alarm button by any means right now. The bigger question is going to be, how long is this environment going to be our environment? That to me is the the great unknown that I don't have a crystal ball for. And that's the one I'm personally more nervous about, because we're not seeing the hand sanitizing products coming down in price. We're not seeing the cleaning products come down in price. We're not seeing the vendors pick up and increase supply in order to meet some of the stuff that's going on out there. And so then you have a bigger question is, how long can we sustain those increased expenses? That makes me more nervous than this that we're talking about right now.
And I think that ties into it too, because all the parents that I know that decided to homeschool this year, it was all because of those things. They don't want to have to deal with the masks and the sanitizer and all that. So when that goes away, expense-wise, you also get students back. I don't know any parents that decided to homeschool this year that plan on doing it forever. It's really, like you say, a fluid, more temporary situation. And from personal experience, I don't know that it'll last, that long. It's not the same as distance learning. It's a lot more intensive, I guess.
Other questions?
It's gonna be an interesting road.
It will be.
Because when you start talking about the 14 days and all of that, and if the COVID comes through, we just need to hope like crazy that we don't have a major COVID issue and we can get through this thing. That's what we need to do. But you just don't know.
All right.
We're good.
Should we go on to the facility project update?
Yeah.
Okay. So our goal was to have things ready today. We're, at least for the CTE space, we're not quite there. I am very comfortable saying that that space will be ready for students on Monday the 14th. We actually did get permission today to occupy, and we can have students in the space. So if we need to, yes, tomorrow there are spaces down in the CTE space that we could use. Given the fact that this is the first week, and as Mr. Orline had indicated, half of our students are going to be here tomorrow and then the other half on Thursday. We do have some alternative spaces for those instructors, so we actually are going to need to use that. In addition, before kids are going to get going on anything down there, they need to do their safety training and all that stuff. So I would consider it a very, virtually no impact in the student programming piece. They are working on the polishing up the floors yet, and then as soon as that's done, then it will be mass time to get equipment moved in. And I would suspect that tomorrow and Thursday and Friday of this week, that is really what is going to happen, is getting that stuff moved in. Priority will be larger equipment first. That way the electrician that needs to hardwire anything can go ahead and get that all taken care of and hardwired. And then from there we can also move in the smaller stuff that obviously is just being plugged into a standard outlet and stuff as well. But the CTE space itself, we should be ready to go Monday morning with that. Can't hardly drive by now, and now you actually see a shell of a building, and so that's nice to see. I was a little bummed last week because the BCI was actually ready for the steel company to be here to start putting it up last week. The company had another project they were finishing up, so they couldn't get here. Well, it just so happened this week now, rather than having only one crew available, they had two. So they have two crews out here all week. We had a construction meeting today at 1:30, and the steel building crew had asked BCI if they would have the ceiling insulation here on Tuesday. So I would think that would mean by Tuesday, you would probably start to see the roof be put on that building. They are just absolutely knocking it out. So it's good to see that, and as soon as they can get the steel beams up, then my understanding is the electrical contractor needs to get in and do some of the electrical work that is still yet to be run in the floor. And once they then have that done, then it's a matter of being able to get that floor put in and start getting that building closed up. So it should go fast, is what I'm hearing. I was real curious to see how long they were saying it was going to take to get that steel structure up. And it sounds like by Tuesday, you should pretty much be able to see exactly what is going to be out there. So once they have that steel structure up, then they will get the masons back and keep doing the block work. That is the tie-in point there to the old entrance by the fitness center. And they'll I think also then dedicate their next priority once that's done then is the automotive shop. And they were actually talking about that today in our construction meeting, that since that's kind of a standalone portion, the way it's been designed, that they want to dedicate manpower to get that block work and stuff all done, which would be good. So, questions on the facility project?
Timeline, automotive should be hopefully by next September when we open school, or?
If I had a $20 bill in my pocket, Rick, I would say we're gonna have that auto shop open for fourth quarter. I just think that this spring, we're gonna get that, I think it's gonna be ready.
Okay.
BCI isn't saying that,
Right.
Site Logic isn't saying that, but I just have this feeling like we're gonna be able to get that thing up and operational this spring. Absolutely, day one of next year, it will be up and ready, but I just have a feeling that it's going to be sooner than that.
Because this is being done in different phases too, the question comes up, because I know you mentioned having an open house for the CTE. We can't wait for everything to be done, or this will be old. So we're going to have to kind of stage in different open houses to...
Yeah, so I mean, I was really thinking that it would be nice at the beginning of October to have some sort of an open house for that CTE space. I mean, I think that's been a huge focal point of the conversation in this community for a number of years. And I think it would be really beneficial to do something like that. It would also be beneficial if we had some ability to have a large gathering, but we, I think, just need to take with the rules that we have in place and design an open house that can be structured and facilitated within the rules that we can right now. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, and we're going to talk more about it tomorrow at our admin meeting about what that might.
Well, and there's been enough changes through the whole school. It'd be nice to somehow tie that all in so they could also see what else is happening.
I agree.
What's the situation in the timeline with the Armory building?
Thanks for asking. So, I actually was anticipating that would go down in August. I thought that would be done. I do know that, Voss has been working extremely, they put in some long hours with getting all the groundwork and everything for the site. So I'm assuming they have run into needing to go get some other things taken care of, and then they will be back and we'll take that thing down. I fully expect that we're gonna get that thing down yet this fall, and they will get it graded and crowned so we can have a decent junior high football field out there, and then they would probably wait and seed it then first thing in the spring when it starts to warm up. Any other questions about the facility project?
Okay, then our last one is request for information and roundtable. Anybody got anything we're not covering at this point? Something particular that we think we should be starting to talk about? And my guess is our schedule's gonna be quite busy as we kind of, this next month or so till we get a good grip on everything. But Has anybody got anything specific? Okay, then we're closed.